Something on Tubi stopped 2 million users scrolling in October 2024. This footage was locked in studio vaults for 40 years. The network deemed it too emotional to air. Red used his final performance to confess. He addressed the camera like his therapist. He exposed personal shortcomings, job lies, and family tragedies. According to viewers, it was like reading a journal. Why did they eventually release it? Red Skelton was born in a tiny Vincennes, Indiana, hut on July 18, 1913, 2 months after his father died of heart disease at 37. His father offered delight to others as a Hagenbeck Wallace circus clown, but not at home. Red's mother raised 4 boys with fortitude after his death. They survived by relying on friends and kindness after losing their tiny store. The poorest kid in school, Red wore shabby clothes, went to bed hungry, and carried the weight of poverty. But he discovered early on that a well-timed laugh could soften everything. He used comedy to hide, not impress, but to survive. His hunger shaped his face, voice, timing, and truth. Red sold newspapers for 3 cents on street corners at 7. To encourage sales, he joked, sung, swept, and begged. His employment duties included delivering ice, lugging cigars, and washing clothes by 10. Walking far for money. He witnessed mothers selling wedding rings for bread. He witnessed shoeless schoolchildren. His education was jumbled between moves and disappointments. He learned something from every minute he laughed with strangers. He was famous in town for making a man with a broken back giggle like a child, not for his grades. He escaped with a medicine show at 10. He sold bogus Purells for $10 a week with Doc R.E. Lewis in the summer. Only 8, he slept in barns and wagons and mailed his mother every cash. He fell off the stage and broke a glass case one night. The crowd chuckled. Red discovered that mistakes may be magical if allowed. After 4 years with the medicine show, he learned stunts, gags, accents, juggling, and pantomime that he would always use. He learned to be poor without resentment, perform without applause, and laugh without reason. Never met his dad. Only tales remained. A man was grease-painted and exhausted. A man whose life took more than it gave and collapsed prematurely. Red clung to those tales like scripture. In every circus tent and dressing room mirror he saw, he looked for a father he never touched. This ache persisted after the evenings were cold and laughter gone. He once said his comedy was an attempt to restore home life. His actions were shaped by that wound. At 15, he quit school. He had $135 and a vague promise from a Chicago burlesque comedian. His suitcase, dream, and memory of his mother's subtle nod accompanied him on a hitchhike from Vincent's. She never stopped him. She knew some kids go towards something because they've been left behind. Red accepted any job. From circuses to nightclubs, back rooms to pavements, he raced through the Great Depression. At 16, he joined the Hagenbeck Wallace Circus, which his father had walked. He breathed the big top, not just lived there. Sawdust, perspiration, anxiety. Quiet before a joke. Red got more than amusing then. There, he became real. He became a drummer for the Merry Mutes, a mute vaudeville group. Red couldn't talk on stage at 16. He mimed, danced, squinted, slipped, and fell. He imitated animals. He imitated actors. He imitated anguish. He earned $5 per week. His knowledge was more valuable. He learned the power of quiet, stare, and stumble. His face mapped everything he couldn't say as a child. He could make people feel without speaking. He introduced words to his act with Bud Jones in 1931. Red wowed audiences with Clark Gable impersonations. They earned $75 weekly. Unheard of during Depression. Bud cheated, and the act collapsed. The Red was crushed. He lost his work and rhythm. He worked dancing marathons, walkathons, and anything else. It was heartbreaking on stage and off. After that breakup, he met Edna Stillwell, a theater usher who could write a punchline better than most radio men. Marriage occurred in 1934. She was 13. He was 21. Edna was business savvy and funny. Together, they produced Guzzler's Gin, a skit about a drunk hiding alcohol from his wife. Crowds devoured it. Chicago clubs called. Sketch became gateway. Edna planned shows, composed songs, and promoted Red harder than anyone. They earned $2,000 weekly by 1937. The Chicago Civic Opera House filled to see his rubber-faced falls and Edna's flaming setups. Their marriage began to fall down behind the scenes. Red rose more, straining their relationship. Red risked joining the Avalon Time radio show in 1937. He created slow-talking country bumpkin Clem Cattledehopper. One character changed everything. His audience loved him. Ratings rose 30%. In 1938, businesses sold Cattledehopper merchandise. His words were imitated. Parents laughed. He created something America needed. Humor without harshness, innocence without idiocy. You felt safe and silly with this persona. Red received his own NBC show in 1941. The Red Skelton Show had 20 million weekly listeners. Each episode was 15 minutes, but he packed it with voices, characters, and routines. Willie Lump Jr. Mean Whittle Kid. Sketch after sketch. People craved it. All that success cost something. Red worked nonstop. He wrote, performed, rewrote, and worried. Until he collapsed during a 1943 live broadcast. He assumed his father said, "Keep going." He couldn't stand or breathe. He was removed from stage, ending the show. Doctors diagnosed fatigue. Red termed it his worst moment. But his comedy returned darker and deeper. There was something new about his voice. Mean, Whittling Kid became one of his most renowned performances. Sharp-tongued, slapstick brat. Not everyone laughed as audiences howled. FCC warnings began. Parents griped. It was too brutal and violent. Red didn't care. He thought comedy should tell the truth, even if it was unpleasant or uncomfortable. The issue boosted his celebrity. The sketches were quoted by kids. No one turned off the radio despite adult complaints. Red made $10,000 per week by 1944. Movie star money. That was palatial money. Red had a weak spot. He gambled. His Las Vegas loss was $50,000 in one night. That was all he had. Gone. Sitting at the table, he was empty-eyed and had no jokes. Pals tried to help. Edna reasoned. Red kept seeking the same excitement from laughing, risk, luck, and timing. Getting out of that hole took years. He was becoming more famous. However, his bank account reminded comedians that applause doesn't pay the bills if you don't know when to go. In 1940, Red Skelton rose quietly at MGM, but not for long. After seeing him perform his unique performances on the radio, a studio talent scout signed him immediately. Flight Command, his film debut, was quiet. In 1941, he attended Dr. Kildare's wedding, changing everything. The movie felt like his after he shot a pantomime drunk sequence in 2 days. The performer, Lou Ayres, then claimed Red stole the photo. Audiences laughed and returned. MGM soon noticed. They put him in everything, wagering that Skelton could make a bad script work. He moved from radio to movies and was thriving at MGM within a year. His name was famous on their property. By 1943, had his own comedic star in Whistling in Brooklyn, and the box office soared. Currently worth over $40 million, the film made $2.5 million then. He portrayed a detective who liked baseball, and the mix of sports, mystery, and clowning seemed suited for him. Audiences didn't realize that some gags featured stop-motion effects, which were rare at the time. Even a Disney technician helped him time the moves. The film's memorable moments came from Skelton's physical pace and these innovative visual gimmicks. So Red wasn't simply MGM's clown, one of their most creative stars. A year later, while filming Bathing Beauty in 1944, Skelton received news that changed him forever. His young son, Richard, suffered leukemia. He told no studio employee. Red appeared the same on camera. Crew members encountered him crying alone in corners off camera. He kept filming. The movie was successful, but his anguish persisted. Richard died at 9 in 1958. Red claimed it altered everything. His work became introspective. He focused on charity. He focused on children's hospitals. The clown that made people laugh had something permanent behind his eyes. Over 15 million Fuller Brushman tickets were sold worldwide in 1948. He should have reached his film career pinnacle. His awkward but lovable door-to-door salesperson made people laugh so hard that theaters had to replay parts to calm the audience. Red didn't rejoice. He had a tight MGM contract. Worked him through illness. Through sorrow, everything. He then said they never let him breathe. On TV, laughing was real, but behind it was someone pushing himself. He hid his grief under tickets, deadlines, and contracts. It was good to be nominated for a Golden Globe for The Yellow Cabman in 1950, but there was still a battle ahead. He wanted to create his own stories and characters. MGM opposed that. They demanded obedience. He declined a part in 1951. His studio suspended him. Newspapers covered it. Actors didn't fight studios then. Yet Red did. He wanted to be more than a clown. Artist esteem was his goal. His stand changed how stars were treated. His fame challenged the establishment. It works. Television followed. About 30 million people watched the Red Skelton show on September 30th, 1951. First night had everything. Live music, army jokes, and mime. Many couldn't believe it was live. It was among the first shows transmitted nationwide over coaxial cable. Next year, he won 2 Emmys. CBS tried to reduce his comedy because it was too graphic, but the crowd didn't care. The show became weekly. Not simply a show, but an event. Freddie the Freeloader, a homeless tramp with a limp, grin, and heart, debuted in 1952. Red warmly welcomed him and stated he was inspired by a Chicago street person. Freddie was loved despite his silence. His hope was seen. This character was more famous than some Hollywood stars by 1953. A vagrant with good timing may win over a population used to polished comedy, as Freddie showed. However, Red's life changed in 1957. While managing him, his wife Edna admitted to having an affair with his producer. Red snapped. He broke his hand punching a hotel wall and missed 2 episodes. Press made it scandalous. Shocked fans. Red, a family man, remarried within months. But damage was done. His image changed. The show dropped, but didn't fail. Even though the man behind it was struggling, the audience wanted their weekly laugh. Red introduced George Appleby, the henpecked spouse, in 1958. His ratings reached 40 million some nights. George was depressed by smog, pestering, and a world that didn't listen. Despite the humor, there was truth. Years of smoking weakened Skelton's voice. He relied more on pantomime. More action, less talk. His physical humor improved. It wasn't weak. Because of that, many watched. He received an Emmy for writing after moving to CBS in 1962. He mocked himself, the suburbs, and the world. But the network wanted more edge. Divorce jokes. Politics. Skelton resisted. He was no renegade comedian. He wanted humor, not controversy. But he tried. His sketches straddled amusing and somber. An Emmy wasn't just a trophy. His voice changed. He was still the clown, but he spoke. He peaked in 1965. 50 million watching weekly. John Wayne increased ratings. Skelton performed Western spoofs and old routines, but viewers demanded color. He initially protested, thinking it was a ploy. Eventually, he conceded. Wayne and his most renowned sketches were featured in a retrospective that year. His scrapbook episode was popular. He ruled again, despite newer, louder comedians rising behind him. CBS left in 1969. The network desired youth culture, but Skelton's show was still popular. They replaced him with alternative shows. One final season of Red was on NBC. His last show aired May 19, 1971. Finally, he said farewell quietly. Though laughing faded, love did not. That final broadcast ended an era, not just a show. 2 years later, in 1973, the IRS called. Late taxes, bad investments, and poor management cost him $1.2 million. He sold his Palm Springs estate at 60. He returned to the road, performing in casinos to repay the debt. He played to nostalgic audiences. Beauty was gone, but work was not. He made headlines fighting for survival. He grinded under the fake smile. In 1976, he returned. He has several Funny Faces programs on NBC. He revived Clem Kadiddlehopper and revised sketches. They made $500,000 in syndication, helping him recover. Old habits worked. The audience laughed. Clem kept it. Red began painting that year after his second wife, Georgia, died. Most of his 500 oil portraits were of his characters. He exhibited in Las Vegas in 1980. He sold $205,000 paintings. The gallery was full. Money wasn't everything. His grief and survival were expressed via painting. People saw the same heart in his art as on screen, but in 1981, things wobbled again. After performing at the Riviera Hotel in Las Vegas, slumped backstage, relapsed into drinking. Very nearly died that night. The friends were worried. Stage was once his medicine, but now it exhausted him. Still, he returned. It wasn't because he couldn't perform. He shot HBO's Freddie the Freeloader's Christmas dinner later that year. On December 13, 1981, Vincent Price and Imogene Coca appeared. The tale was straightforward. Freddie merely wanted to eat with a friend. The special was made for $200,000. But 5 million watched. A peaceful, lovely, and heartfelt moment. Just like him. He performed more funny expressions with Marcel Marceau in 1982. A 30-minute wordless joke duel ensued. Vandals desecrated Richard's grave before filming. Red rarely spoke, but his pain was clear. Not a moment was wasted on stage. His mime and smile distracted the audience. He always did that. The 1983 sequel Funny Faces 3 followed. Skelton shared something private that year. He played for European soldiers for 18 months after joining in June 1944. He performed during blackouts, entertained bomb shelters, and broadcast on military radio. No one knew. He kept it secret. Now it's out, and people see the clown differently. He was more than funny. He served quietly. On July 18th, he played for Queen Elizabeth II at Royal Albert Hall in London. His 70th birthday. In memory of his father, he recounted stories, sketched, and drummed. HBO broadcast it in 1984. Even though it cost $200,000, the hall was full of laughter that night. Everyone laughed, including royalty. He had 5 million viewers for each of his $200,000 farewell programs. HBO showed Toronto-filmed episodes. Big Heart, Simple Productions, Freddie's Christmas Dinner, and Royal Command. Was most notable. Red Skelton lived for humor. But beneath his red nose and painted smile was a guy who understood more about grief than most people realize. His divorce from Edna Marie Stilwell in 1957 scarcely made headlines. She was more than his wife. She managed, wrote, and guided him. Valentina, 10, was the heart of a tempest neither parent could manage. Red was distant, Edna said. Red claimed Edna turned their daughter against him. The court picked Edna. Red cried in court. He sometimes wore clown makeup to remind people he was a father. It wasn't a publicity stunt. He only had one way to speak through the noise. His 9-year-old son Richard was diagnosed with leukemia in May 1958, months later. No doctors could help. Richard's body weakened, so Red and Georgia maintained vigil at UCLA Medical Center. Just days before his 10th birthday, the youngster died on May 10th. Red canceled his show. Johnny Carson replaced him on TV. Off camera, Red stopped talking. Grief consumed him by 1961. He attempted suicide with sleeping tablets. Doctors revived him, but his dancing self never returned. He transformed his sorrow into purpose after that. He founded the Red Skelton Classic Learning Center in 1963 to give other kids what he lost. He married Lothian Toll in 1963. They heard betrayal whispers for a decade. Marriage stopped in 1971. Red was alone again. Georgia Davis followed in 1973. Life warmed briefly. She died of cancer in 1976. He didn't comment. He was not seen. For nearly 3 years, Red rarely left home. No stage, no spotlight. Silence, shadow, no punchline. Red's car hit another in Palm Desert on January 17, 1986. His 73-year-old body broke 12 times. Cracked ribs, broken legs, bruised and swollen face. He spent weeks in the hospital. Surgeries followed. Although he joked with the reporters, he was scared it was over. He was immobile for months. He couldn't work. He calmly withdrew from public life, not bitterly. In 1990, physicians said his lungs were deteriorating. COPD. Too many cigarettes. Too many decades. He quit immediately. He called it his hardest task. His final years were spent painting feverishly. More than 50,000 items. He sold them, donated the proceeds to children's hospitals, and let the art speak. Even though Red Skelton died on September 17, 1997, he was not done. Lucille Ball presented Red with the Governor's Award during the 38th Primetime Emmys in Pasadena in 1986. No one had forgotten him 16 years after his show was canceled. He obtained an honorary degree from Ball State that year. A Screen Actors Guild Award followed in 1987. His name was mentioned again. A generation raised with him returned. The voice, face, and sadness behind the grin were remembered. Interest rose again in 1989. 3 missing Red Skelton Show episodes were found. 16 more were added to the Lost Episodes VHS in 1990. They come from private collections and ancient station vaults, unsearched for decades. Not just reruns. People feared those moments were lost forever. Red's rituals, once mute and blurry, were now alive. Over 200 hours of unaired kinescopes discovered in Indiana in 2013. They weren't typical clips. Censored 1950s comedy addressing racism and civil rights never aired. Skelton wrote, fought for, and stored them when networks refused. They returned decades later, presenting the world a Red that questioned and pushed, not just juggled or mimed. These reels were collected by Edna and Red Skelton. They were political, raw, human. His paintings survived too. Paintings of Freddie the Freeloader sold for $1 million by 2020. The TV tramp he played was now a high art. Skelton started painting in the 1960s and made more from art than television at the end of his life. More than 1,000 Skelton artwork were donated to museums. The Red Skelton Museum created a $4 million gallery. Once in his study, now in displays. He painted to survive sadness and left a legacy. Outtakes and bloopers from his 1971 final TV episode were released by the Paley Center for Media in 2024. It ended a 20-year run on CBS on August's worst. Yet this hidden footage indicated something more personal. Behind-the-scenes laughs with Carol Burnett, missed lines, a crew going crazy, and Red caught off guard in emotion. It was footage he never believed would air. It anchored future retrospectives. The most disturbing release followed. Tubi streamed Red Skelton, the farewell specials, and censored in October 2024. It had over 2 million viewers its first week. This was his 1981 to 1982 season. The majority had never aired. A 45-minute version of Freddie the Freeloader's Christmas dinner show deleted Skelton records. It went beyond acting. Red wept. Where scripting ended, monologues began. He confessed to the camera. Just 1 month before Red was born, his father, Joe Skelton, died inside a circus tent in 1912. He mentioned 1984's Richard Jr. He said that loss never healed him. A few viewers stopped viewing. It was too personal, like reading a journal. Hearing it talk. Skelton revealed an unexpected admission throughout the event. He spent 4 months with the Hagenbeck Wallace Circus in 1929 at 16. He admitted to stealing scripts, clown routines, physical gags, and pie-in-the-face plans. He learned them line by line. He chuckled through tears and said, "I'd still be selling soap on the streets if I hadn't pinched those scripts." The 4K footage was restored. Minor facial twitches and hand motions in his pantomimes were preserved. This repair team worked for nearly a year. Each frame and shot were cleaned and stabilized. Dusty and dull became clear, bright, and memorable. His shows made Tubi's top 10. With stillness and a painted grin, young people who had never heard his name found his power.